our second module, and that would be our, let's use a notepad over here. So it would be our introduction part. Introduction of Burpsuite. So we're going to talk about the Burpsuite, what is Burpsuite used for, and what are the, you can say, the content tables. The most important part is the content table of Burpsuite. So over here, we're going to try one by one all the possibilities, and I'm going to share a book also with you guys, and that would be my, this. This is your Burpsuite Cook Handbook, and this is very handy for the beginner levels. So in this thing, you can see there are around 11 modules, and each and every module has a different kinds of things. So our major concern would be we're gonna start one by one. Get started with the Burpsuite. You can see you can download the community edition or the professional ones. Setting up your own testing labs. You can simply make your own local lab for penetrate your skills of your web application part. And you can see over here, to use Burpsuite, a penetration tester requires a target application. You can see installing OWASP application contained within the virtual VMs. So OWASP is a virtual machine which is vulnerable, which has level of expertise and vulnerabilities over here. And one more thing, which is the important part, a web browser uses Burpsuite proxy listener. A proxy listener where we communicate and read about all the packet with the state inspection part. The listener required or to capture HTTP traffic between the burps and the target website. So by defaultly, Burpsuite listen on the port number on your IP, which is your 127.0.0.1 port 8080. So you can change the port according to your So you can change your port according to your own need, but by defaultly it will work on the port number 8080. So you can see Burpsuite has 3 categories defined, which is your professional, community, and enterprise. So the professional are one the expensive because it will be around $400 per year for a single user. And community edition is free for all people. But the enterprise is around $4,000 per year. So you can see the professional version of all functionality enable passive and active scanners. There is no focus on Portswagger. Portswagger is a company which is introduced our tool called Burpsuite. So Burpsuite over here, which help us for penetrate the web application part with the VA and a PT part. This is a VA PT part tool. So we can use Burpsuite in various types of things. So for example, let me show you how to configure Burpsuite. Okay, before continue, you can see over here also, get ready with the Burpsuite. Select the edition you want. They have given all the things one by one over here. You can download as per your architecture for the Windows, for the Linux. They have given all the things with the extension jar file, with the Linux architecture, the Macintosh, the Windows 32. Setting up a web application labs, you can see. And this is your setting up your own practice lab. Yes. So if you have downloaded the jar file, you have to use Java jar for executing Burpsuite, because on the specific application we have jar over there. And over here you can see some other application also, which is your jar files. But the most important part, when you execute your Burpsuite, you have to select the first page will appear. So you can see temporary project, new project on this, on existing project. So if you see on the screen over here, then when I simply execute the Burpsuite, I can see there was a temporary project, the new project on the disk, and the open existing project. So the temporary project, you can see, use it for the temporary period of time. You can simply close it anytime if you want. New projects on the disk is based on the name. You can have to put the name of the project, and you can select where you have to. And open existing project, you can simply, we know about this one, the currently which is running over there. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna try with the temporary project over here. So let's use the temporary project. So let's next. And as you can see on the screen, they have given the select the configuration that you would like to load for the project. So if you already know about, if you have your own configuration part, you can simply choose it. Otherwise, by defaultly, you can try the use the Burpsuite default. So default the above in the future or disable extension is up to you guys, which one you have to use. So I'm going to use the use default for Burpsuite. So start Burpsuite. So in the front of me, I can see there are some website which is given over here. A website, which I saying a web tabs, a dashboard, a target, a proxy, a intruder, repeater, sequencer, decoder, comparer, extender. These are some tabs that we're going to use it over here in our upcoming sessions. But before that, we're going to learn about what is this basic means over here. If I have a website, for example, let's take a small website over here. I'm going to take a testing website. So the testing website would be my test PHP. So I'm going to take this one. So this is the Akinetics website. We're going to use this one. The main objective of this website is to penetrate all the skills. You can see this is not a real shop. This is an example of PHP application which is initially vulnerable to the web attacks. It is intended help to test Akinetics. It has also helped you to understand how developers errors and bad configuration may be. Let some break. So this you can use the test and other tools for manual hacking skills. Looks for protection, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and cross-site record forgery. You can see over here. So our major objective over here, when we find a website to penetrate, what do we have to look? The first important part we're going to do is the recon part. It's all about information gathering. In information gathering part, we have to identify the content which is on the server side. So through the server side, we have to examine all the possibilities over there one by one. So our major objective would be to identify each and every content and hidden directories. Some of the word I will say is the crawl part. Crawling is the perfect word for this one. To identify the number of directories and services. Services, I mean the subdomains, you can see. So over here, the first thing we have to do is to configure our Burpsuite. So we need to configure this one. So if you look over here on the screen, they have given the substituent splash screen as you can about the configuration part. So over here, the most important thing is listening for HTTP traffic using burp. So you can see over here, they have given the burp is described as an intercepting process proxy. It means the burp side between the user and the web applications, web servers intercept and capture all the traffic flowing in the between them. So over here, we can simply intercept the packets which is from the client and between the server. So the major objective of the Burpsuite is to read each and every packet so we can proceed with our attacking phase. So this type of behavior commonly referred as proxy services. Yes. So what we have over here, you can see they have given all the possibilities how to do it. So getting ready, they have given so how to do it. Open the Firefox, go to your options in the general tab, scroll down in the network proxy section, and then click to the setting. In the connection setting, select manual proxy and type the IP address, which is your 127.0.0.1. And you can see over here, this one is like this. By defaultly, your proxy service will be your use system proxy settings, but we have to use the manual one. We have to put the 127.0.0.1 port 8080, and we have to click the write to all protocols. So let's have a look over here. So you have to go to the proxy tab first of all. You can see the proxy over here. So by default, the interception will be on, so it will not work until you have intercept the packet. So it's, but we're gonna use this one because this is the important part, interception part. So in the proxy, we have intercept, we have HTTP history, we have WebSocket history, and we have options. So you can see whatever the things you're gonna click over here, you will see these things, web history, all the content will be over here. And by the way, I'm going to go to the proxy option tab. Why? Because we can activate the proxy lister. Burp proxy uses listener to receive incoming HTTP requests from the browser. You will need to configure your browser to use this proxy on its local server. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use 127.0.0.1 port 8080. That would be my default one as per the Burpsuite ones. If you want to change your port number over here, you can simply go to the add and you can write any of the port number. So I'm going to write 8883. But remember one thing, the port number should be open on your server side. And over here, you can bind this port with any of the IPv4 or IPv6. So this is my localhost IP address, and this is my system IP address, which is, you can see over here. So let's do ifconfig. And over here, you can see 192.168.0.110. That is my local system IP address, which is given by IPv4. And this is my local IP address, which is 127.0.0.1. So you can bind your own ports, or you can specify or loopback. It's all up to you. You can simply redirect the request to another host, redirect to host, and redirect to port. Certificate that we're gonna generate the CS certificate over here, which is our main lead task, and the TLS protocol. So right now we don't need these things. So I'm going to cancel this one because I'm going to use my 127.0.1 port 8080 protocol, and the traffic will be generated over here. And over here, you have to go to your Firefox with the preference. In the preference tab, you have to search for the network. So you can see network. So we have network over here. So let's setting up. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to change the manual proxy as per our need. So click over here. I already have mentioned the IP address and the port number. And you have to select use this proxy for all protocol services. For SSL proxy, for FTP proxy, for socket host, you can see one by one all the things. So you have to check the most important thing. And the most important part, when you have done with the when you have done with the proxy server, kindly use this proxy setting again to the default one. Otherwise, I have a better solutions. Or you can install a utility called Foxy Proxy. Foxy Proxy is a utility which is based on your application for setting up your Burpsuite or any of the proxy services. For example, you can download this one over here. Foxy Proxy. You can. This is a Firefox add-on. You can see over here. This is for Eric and John. So I'm gonna not remove this one. We're gonna add this one over here. So you can see over here when you click it over here, you can see that I already have mentioned a function over here which is burp. But let's go to the options. So I already have mentioned the Burpsuite over here, but I'm gonna remove this one. So how does it looks like? So let's remove this. So you will see something like this: add import settings, import proxy list, export settings, delete all. So you can read about this one, the person who made this tool with the version over here. So import proxy list along requested feature, turn off, turn on. You can see all the things that is given over here. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna add new proxy services. You can give any title you want. So I'm gonna give this one burp, and you can simply use the proxy type you want. So is it HTTP, HTTPS, SSL, socket? It's all up to you. So I'm gonna use the HTTP and the localhost IP address that I want to DNS name. So it would be our localhost IP address, which was 0001 port 88. And the port number which I'm going to mention is that would be my port 88. So over here you can see enabled add whitelist pattern to the match all URLs. Do not use for localhost interpret. So you can simply use your username and password to configure. So I'm not going to use this one. So let's save this. So the proxy has been set. So when you use your proxy services and when you try to load any of the websites, for example this one, or the google.com, you can see your connection is not secure. If you try other websites like your YouTube, you will see your connection is not secure. Why? Because we have intercept the packet, which is your HTTP. That was for HTTP packets. That was HTTP. So when you want to intercept the packet from the HTTPS website, you have to install the CS certificate of the Burpsuite. CS certificate, certified authority. Each installation of Burpsuite generates its own CS certificate that proxy listeners can use when negotiating TLS connections. See, you can import or export this certificate for use in other tools or other installation of Burp. Import CS certificate or regenerate CS certificate, which we will use the first one. So I can click over here. Yes. So when you click over here, you will see the packet has been regenerated on your local host, which was your 127.0.0.1 port 8080, because it's running on the localhost server. So when you put your IP address, which is your port 8080, you will see Burpsuite Professional. Welcome to the Burpsuite Professional, and you can see this is our CS certificate, and CS certificate is basically used for your HTTPS secure one to negotiate, or you can say trust to intercept the packets between the client and the server. So this is a CS certificate.dr file. We're gonna save this one, and let's have a look on. Yeah, so I already have the CS certificates, but there are some junk words. So let's download this one again. Yeah. So if you open this one, you will see this is a port swagger CS certificate. Identify the port swagger expiry date, which is your Tuesday 8, 2020. So if you see over here, this is the proper credentials, issue names, and they are using the public key information. You can see over here. So we have to install this CS certificate also. So for CS certificate, we have to go to the preference and we have to write certificate over here. So in the certificate, you have to go to the authorities, import authorities. You can see over here, downloads, and the CS certificate.df. So when you click over here, you can see they have given some identify website, identify email user. So we're gonna try yes, yes, and okay. Now let's try with the Google. With the Burpsuite is still running. Now I can see that it's properly running because we have installed the CS certificate in our browser, so it can be communicate with the TLS websites. So our major agenda would be we're gonna check all the HTTPS packets, and that would be our major concern. So when you have set up your interception part, remember to check if the proxy interception is running or not. Interception tab is basically used to analyze the packet size or the protocol type. So we're gonna intercept this packet. So we're gonna hold the packet. The interception means the hold the packet to analyze the packet type. So I'm gonna on the intercept. You can see there is no need to configure your proxy settings manually. Use Burp embedded Chromium browser to start testing right away. You can use a different browser. You need to perform a few additional steps to configure your browser proxy settings. you will also need to install burp certificate. See, you can see the documentation also. Configure your browser to work with the Burpsuite. So you can install with the Internet Explorer, Chrome, but I will say use Safari. That will use Firefox. That will be grateful, because most of the people, most of the pen testers, they use Firefox for validation testing part, and that will be really easy for us. And you can see the community edition. I guess I don't have. Okay, I don't have the permission to click over it. So you can see documentation, penetration testing part. So as we were talking about the tools that we're going to use it over here in our upcoming sessions, we can see they have given scanners, intruder, repeaters, collaborative client, click bandit, sequencer, decoder, comparer. What are these tools first of all? So let me show you over here. We are talking about these things. First of all, we need to examine. If we have the tool, we have to read the manual concepts. So over here, you can see using Burpsuite proxy. If you are in the first time burp, you can want to take a look on your guide to help you do most of the experience. So they have given all the things one by one. So the major agenda of this one is to understand how the Burpsuite works. So you can see they have given the intercept tab. So first of all, I'm gonna introduce you the tabs which we're gonna use over here. So you can see scanners. This is used to automatically scan the website for content and security vulnerabilities. So it's a VA tool to identify the loopholes on the server side. Scanners. And content is the data which is hidden from the human eye, which is hidden on the server side. And we have to recon this one. Recon means to identify each and every in the deep depth part. Intruder, this allows to perform customized automated attack to carry out kinds of testing. So I will say this is a type of your brute force attack, fuzzing attack. To force the server to identify the loopholes, which can be used for the further stage. Repeater, you can see this is used to manually modify the reuse of individually HTTP over and over. A repeater is basically used to, you can see, modify the client request that can be embedded with any of the scripts you want, or there are lots of other things. Collaborator, this is used to generate Burpsuite payloads to monitor or result out of the bound instructions. Click bandit, this is used to generate clickjacking exploit vulnerability explications. Sequencer, this is used to analyze the quality of randomness in the application session tokens. Decoder lets you to transfer bits and applications using common encoding and decoding schemes. This is used to perform a visual comparison between the application data and finding interesting difference. So it's all comparing the client requests over here. So the very first thing we're going to use is our scrolling part. So, but let's have a look if the interception is working or not. So let's intercept on, and I'm going to restart this one. So over here on the screen, you can see this, the request has been stopped with the Google part. So over here, and I can see a proper request over here. So you can see the request which is over here is your get method. Get method, the data which is transferring from the client side in the URL form. And the HTTP version, which is they're using HTTP 1.1. The host header, these are the headers. These are headers over here. And each and every header has a message body. Host means the website you are visiting. The user agent is basically your mediator. For example, I'm using Firefox. Accepting the application there in the form of languages, encoding, encryption type, and the most important thing is the cookie, which is your session. Connection is closed right now, upgrading in secure request and cache files. So I can see the packet has been intercepted. So in the proxy tab, we can see we can forward this packet, we can drop this packet, or we can take any actions, and we can open in browser also. And over here you can see the Google IP address. The raw packet which contains the request type, the parameters, you can see the parameter values. It will show you the parameters. You chose a cookie type, these are the parameters over here with the values. The parameter was like your ip.jar file, your ind files, your otz files, your div file. So over here you can see the header also. The header which we were talking about, the get host user agent, accept encryption part, knowing cookie connections, and the values. The first thing is to understand how the request looks like. The hexadecimal values, the data which is transferring in the binary code. Or I have a better look over here. See, this book, the Web Application Hacker Handbook 2, which is a really good book for understanding the part of the things. So over here, there were around 18, yes, there are around 21 modules, and you can read about one by one. So you can understand the web application in security, code defense mechanism, web application technology. So over here, we're going to read about the protocols, HTTP protocols. So the first thing first, we have HTTP request. So what is a request? Which is made by the client to get browse on the actual website they want. So you can see HTTP uses a message-based model in which the client sends a request message and the server returns a response message. The protocol is essentially connectionless. All through HTTP uses the stateful TCP protocol as transport mechanism, and a request and response in automates transaction and many use of different TCP connections. So you can see all the HTTP message or request and response consist one or more headers. So we were talking about these are the headers, which is contain some body type. When you simply do google.com, facebook.com, any of your browser from your browser side, in the backend we can see can't assume what will be there. So over here, the things which can be seen is our here. These are the basic things which is passing through on your client side in the backend process. So over here you can see they have given the first line of every HTTP request has 3 items separated by presses. You can see the get parameter, the URL, the characters, and the HTTP version. So the first one they were saying, this one. A verb indicating the HTTP method. The most commonly used method is called get, which function is to retrieve a resource from the web browser. A get request do not have any message body, so further data will flow blank line after the message. The request URL, the URL typically functions as the name of the resource being requested. So this was the we were talking about www.google.com and the URL, the parameter value. And the most important thing, the HTTP version. The HTTP version being used, the only HTTP version in the common use of internet is 1.0 and 1.1. So currently you have to examine is it using 1.0 or 1.1 because they have some differences over there. The most browsers are used 1.1 by the default. There are a few differences between the specifications of the two versions. So verification is that in version 1.1 the host request headers are mandatory. Host header in 1.13 host header where the website belongs to. Check this one. You have a referrer. The referrer basically is for the URL specific part of the website, and the host, which is your domain name. The referrer headers is used to indicate the URL from which the request originated. For example, because of the user clicked in a link and that page. User agent, the header is used to provide information about the browser and other client software that generated the request. The host header specifies the host name that is appeared in the full URL being accessed to the website. The cookie header is used to submit the additional parameter that such server is being used. So you can see these are the normal things which is come on the client request. And if you talk about the response, when it indicates, you will see HTTP 1.1, which is 200. 200 indicates that the request has been successful. You can see this book is given lots of techniques that we can use it for understanding the part of the core mechanism. So there are some few things I have to tell you that some status code also. When you simply see there was 200, 100, 300, 400, 500, what are those things first of all? So I guess when you simply put a URL, for example, www.google.com, you are making a HTTPS code which is your 100 information which is transferring from the client side. When the request has been successful from the server side, it will show you the response of 200. The request is successful. 300 indicate that the client is rewrite to a different resource. 400, 404, 403, we have heard about that one. 404, page not found. 403, which is forbidden. The request contains an error of some kinds. 500, the server encountered unfulfilling the request. The server side error. You can see over here, one by one. And some circumstance where the client submits a request containing a body. 200 indicate that the request was successful and the response body contains the result. And 201 creates an is written and response output request to indicate that the request was successful. They have given one by one all the possibilities that we can use it over here. So our major concern would be, we're going to check one by one. You can see, check one by one all the things. So our major concern would be, we're going to check all the things over here. So we're going to try looking for the website part. So let's have a look on our Kali Linux. So let's drop the packet. First of all, we don't need the packet. You can see some error. So first thing first, okay, you can see I have created some requests. When you simply do some website crawling, you can see some targets has been loaded. If you visit any of the website, for example, I was going to Google Ads and some other parts. So our major concern, we're gonna do a spider part. So what is spider first of all? So let's have a look over book. So you can see spider with spidering with spider. So spidering is another term of mapping out the crawling of a web application. This mapping exercise is necessary to uncover links, folders, and files present within the target applications. So we have to crawl in the entire directory to identify each and everything which is hidden over there. In addition of crawling, Burpsuite can also submit forms and automated questions. Spidering should occur prior of scanning, since pen tester wish to identify all the paths and functionality prior to looking for vulnerabilities over here. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to check. So for example, in this new Burpsuite, you will see there will be no name of spider. So what we're going to do, we're going to see in the dashboard, you can see there is a new tab, which is your new scan and new live scan. So just click on the new scan. And in the new scan, you can see the scanning tab, which is your crawl and audit. And you have the crawl part. So in the crawl and audit, it will simply identify all the directories and subdirectories. And in the audit part, it will also perform a VF part, which is your vulnerability scanner. So you can configure your scans over here one by one. Crawling auditing part, you can simply do what are the things you need over here. You can simply configure your own. And in the scan details, you can see we're gonna simply do a scrolling part to identify the directories and subdirectories, which is your scanning using HTTP and HTTPS. So let's copy this one. You can try this. So let's use scroll part, testphp.runhub.com. So let's have a starting process. So if you see over here, crawling of testphp.vulnhub.com is running, and we can see the number of requests which is getting over here. So our major concern, if you are using the crawling process, we need to identify the directories and subdirectories on the server side that could be used in the further process. So it's all up to us that we can use it for the modification of the data or the formation part. So 119 requests has been created, 122. You can see the number of requests is over there. So number of requests means number of authentication part, and the scanning process will be completed. And remember one thing: if you are crawling the entire a big website, it will take a lot of time to crawl. So over here, we're gonna check one by one all the things. So it will take around 20 seconds, and you can see the number of requests. The number of requests means the number of logs will be there. Yes, and you can see the output over here on the target tab. In the web application penetration testing part, you can see they have given, these are lots of website over here, but we have to, and this was our website. See, you will see some tabs like your content tabs, your issue tabs, your request and response tab, the behavior. You can examine the behavior of the application, and the adversary, which is your information part. So over here we can see there are lots of websites, but I'm gonna use a specific one. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna click on this specific one, and you can see in the test.php there are some directories like this one. So what I'm gonna do, I guess yes, it's running over here. So we're gonna do right click, and over here we're gonna use add to scope. Why we are using add to scope? Because we're gonna specify the request type. Are you added to the item to the target step? Do you want to use proxy to stop sending the output scope? Yes. And over here you will see you have to specify which type of things you want. Show only in scope items, show only requested items, show only the parameters request, and you can use what kind of type you want to use. Is it HTML script or HTML or CSS or other binary files? And you can use the filtration of the status code also, which is your 200, 300, 400, and 500. So this is the normal thing that you have to use in the very first thing. And the most important thing, identify the extension type which the web application is using. Is it using ASP, ASPX, JSP, or PHP? It's all up to them. So over here, I'm going to use show only out in the scope, first of all. So you can see, I can see only the test.php.vulnhub.com, which is on the scope item. And over here, the crawl has been finished. 980 requests have been created. There were around 4 errors. And if you check over here, issue activity, you will see some errors. Strict transport security force, unencrypted communications. See, you get these are some issues they have found it. and you can read about these issues. This application allows user to connect to the unencrypted connections and attackers securely possible to view a legitimate users. So over here, what we're gonna do, we're gonna try to check all the possibilities. So, and the most important thing is the target tab. The target tab is to examine the identified type. See over here. These are the contents of the parameters values. So if you click over here in the parameter, remember one thing, check the behavior between the client and the application. First, you need to understand, to examine the behavior. The behavior which I'm saying is the application behavior. It could be any type of applications. And you can see this is the host, the method they are using, the get method, and the post method. The get method, the data which is transferring from the URL section, and the post method which is transferring from the any of the comment field or a search field, or any of the client can submit the data. And you have to examine the parameter values. You can see if there is lot of parameters, there will be lots of vulnerabilities. It might be 50-50 chance, because bug bounty of web application, it's all about hit and trial. And you can see over here the parameter tab. Okay, so and the status plus the length of the file. Length of the file contains the data type, the maximum data. The mean time, which is HTML, which kind of data you want to check. As I mentioned you, is you want HTML or a script or XML, what kind of data. You can try to check all this in one by one. You can see CSS also. But CSS is not the parameter value, this is the file over there. Sign up PHP. So through the recon part, and the most important thing, let's take this one. Artist is equal to .php, artist is equal to 1. So when I click over here, you can see the request header is also changing. See. This contains the request which is from the client side. And you can see the response also from here. The response tab contains the server side answers. You can see the data which is transferred from the URL section, which is your artist.php, which is a file type with a question mark, artist is equal to 1. So let me show you one thing over here, which is the common thing. Let me copy this one. There's an easy way to understand this one. So let me show you one thing to examine the web type. So over here we're going to use domain name / file type dot programming language question mark with the parameter with the value of it. So let's copy this one. So the domain name was our test PHP first of all .oneweb.com, and we have so domain name we have test php.1hub, file type that is artist, programming language they're using PHP, the parameter which is artist, and the value is which is 1. The most common thing is to understand the file type, the programming language the website is using, and the parameter which is transferring from there. And you can see the same thing which is given. So our major concern is to check all the possibilities one by one over there, and the response code also. So what exactly this one is? You can see the response code. If you can examine this, if there is an error. For example, if I change the value into something like 400, let's change the value. I can't change the value over here. See, to change the value to 400, I have to send this request to the repeater mode, but that will be coming later part. We are still going to do the recon part. So when you find some parameter values on the server side, the most important thing is you can simply do right click over there. What kind of scan you want to do? Is it a scan? Is it a passive scan of the host or the active scan of the host? Scanner is, as I mentioned you, scanners are basically used to identify the loopholes. Scanners, this is used to automatically scan website for content and web security vulnerabilities. So let's have a look over here. Scan. You can do audit part, or you can do crawl part, or you can select the part you want to do. So get your task, which parameter which I want to attack. Or I can do one thing. I can use the active scan. Active scan this host. Active scan is all to identify the loopholes on the server side with the security auditing part. So over here you can see I have some pop-ups over here, which is your flash cross domain policies and clear text submission passwords. This is a proper way to identify the loopholes on the server side, and you can see over here it's already found 3 vulnerabilities because this website has vulnerable. So what we're going to do, we're going to click over here, and what I can see that he finds some issues which is in red, which is your critical vulnerabilities. These are some critical vulnerabilities over here. Severity, you can see over here on the audit part. And on the audit part, you can see the host they are using, the URL, and the status code, and the passive or active scan. In the active scan, it will scan the entire network and identify the loopholes. You can see over here one by one. Issue has found with the request 160. Issue activity. In issue activity, you can see all the possibility vulnerabilities, which is your clear text submissions of the password or the flash cross domain policy. You can click over here, which are the high ones, or the mediums, or the low. The low are over there. Password field with automatic enabled, or the information one. We don't count information. We count firmware. If we can find anything on there, or the settings. Event logs are the normal thing which is running over there, the backend process. The most important thing is to identify each and everything because it's all about the request which we're gonna use. Active scan is basically one of the best scan to identify the loopholes automatically with the parameter value. And over here you can simply check this one. You can read about this one. The page contains a forum with the following URL, clear text HTTP, new user page. It contains the following password field, which is your upass and upass2. And you can read about some description which is given over there one by one for the static. So application transmitted passwords over encrypted connections, making them vulnerable to interceptions. To exploit this vulnerability, an attacker must be subsequently questions and it will drop on the victim network. So you have to read and the CVE. As we have discussed last time, CVE, clear text transmission, sensitive, common weakness evaluation part. You can read about the vulnerability. The software transmits sensitive and security critical data in the clear text in communication channel that can be sniffed by unauthorized actors. Extend description: many communication channels may be sniffed by attacker during the data transmission. For example, network traffic can often be sniffed by the attacker who is accessing the network interface. It means a proper submission part. So there are lots of things can happen over there. You can see they have fine explanation also. So our major concern would be how it looks like. The major part is to understand how the vulnerabilities. You can see This he find the SQL injection on the server side. The artist.php, and you can see it made a request. Click over here, and you can see the response. Select start from the sleep for 20 seconds. It can find the vulnerabilities automatically over here, and you can see the response code from right click over here and show response in browser to check a reflection over there. So it will sleep for 20 seconds. You can simply put for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. It's all up to you guys. So our major concern that it will sleep if there is an SQL injection on the server side on the artist parameter, it will simply have a reflection over there. So one by one, all the possibilities will be there over here to complete our sequence part. Active scan identify the loopholes, which is your auditing part, which is your VA part. So it's going to take some time, because over here in the response code you can see 200. Or you can copy this one and I can change over here. So over here, the Burpsuite intruder is basically used to identify the loopholes. You can see there are cross scripting also. See, an active scan is also useful for that things. That can be helping for various types of attacks. You can see the request they have made it and the response. So let's try. This is a reflected one. So show response in browser. Just copy this one and let's have a look. Yes, we can see a reflection over there. So I didn't did anything, just a recon part, an animation part to identify the loopholes on the server side. So our major objective is to identify the loopholes on the server side in the animation part. The recon part, which I will say the recon part is an important thing, which is you have to identify the vulnerabilities on the server side that can be used for the further process.